is a series on stress eating. The first video, I talked about how if you are trying to lose weight and you deal with stress eating, it is hugely important that you acknowledge that by stepping on to the path of weight loss, you are signing up to take away this support system of stress eating, for lack of a better word. The last video I talked about, I introduced 3 ways of coping with stress eating, and then I talked about the first way. The first way with dealing with stress eating is by putting boundaries around your food. So that's a very external behavioral tactic, but it's simply saying, I am only allowing myself these kinds of food, or this amount of food, or eating during these times of day. It's a very simple way of preventing us from going off the rails with our stress eating. Now, if you've done that and you're like, yeah, I've done that, that doesn't work. It's not your fault. We've all done that. It's because the behavioral stuff, that's not where our change really needs to happen. It needs to happen deeper than that. If all you needed was to upgrade your behavior, your eating techniques, then we would all be the way we want to be. However, for all of us, because we're human, eating is about far more than just eating a certain amount of calories or eating at a certain time of day, right? There's emotions involved. That first way is a great way. This second way is really represents moving deeper into the onion of our own humanity, we'll say. The second way to deal with stress eating is by upgrading your coping mechanisms. Right now, if you suffer from stress eating, it's because you've had a rough day, a rough week, and you come home and you are trying to cope with that stress. And the easiest way to do it is by cracking open a beer, pouring a glass of wine, popping open a bag of chips, something that's just instantaneous, and it changes your nervous system. It changes your physical state, and that's why we do it, because it's so easy. It's so easy. And so we as humans are very, very adaptable and capable of finding the easiest way to get something, and that's what stress eating is. We just know that it doesn't translate into long-term happiness, right? How do we upgrade that? Well, I've got 3 ways of upgrading your coping mechanisms, 3 strategies. These are called the lines of defense. I've got 3 lines of defense that prevent you from stress eating. The first line of defense is finding things that nourish you and support you, that change your physiology, that change your physical state, that you do on your own. I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, all right, this is a weight loss coach. She owns a gym. I know what she's going to say. Work out. I'm not going to say that. Now, if you love to work out, then yes, it represents a first line of defense option for you. However, if you don't love going and sweating it out in a gym, maybe you don't like yoga, then you don't have to do those things. First line of defense, remember, it's anything that changes your state that you can do on your own. So yes, that might mean taking a yoga class. Yes, that might mean going and sweating it out in a kickboxing class. It could also mean if you have any kind of a hobby. I've got a dear friend who loves to sew. Maybe sewing is your hobby. I have another dear friend who loves to crochet. I've got another friend who, my sister-in-law actually loves to garden. Someone else in my life that they love to swim, which you're probably like, swimming is working out. That's fine, whatever. The point is, it's a hobby. It's something that changes your state. Another example might be going to a bookstore. I know they're few and far between these days, but going to a bookstore and sitting down with a cup of coffee and reading a book while you're just sitting amongst the books. That changes my state as well. Rock climbing might change your state. Going on a walk might change your state. Going to a dog shelter and walking one of the dogs, petting a dog, holding a baby, like any one of those things can change your state. What is a thing that you can do today that would change your state, put you in a good state? Second line of defense is things that you do in community with other people. This doesn't have to be this very formalized thing. It could be calling a friend on the phone. It could be meeting a friend for dinner or happy hour. It could be going to a concert with some people. It could be doing an acro yoga class. It could be doing any sorts of things, but it's in community with other people. Third line of defense is something or things that you do with professionals. Best example that I have off the top of my head is my clients, the work I do with them. I represent their third line of defense, one of their third lines of defense. If you work with a therapist, that is a third line of defense option. Another thing might be going and getting a massage. I don't know about you, but anytime I get a massage, my state changes completely. Completely. As soon as the massage therapist starts working on me, I am in a different state and I am happier for it. Those are all examples of third line of defense options. Now, all three of these things is that can help support you so that you never feel like you need to stress eat. So the last question that remains, well, how do I incorporate this? When I get home and I want to open a bag of chips, is that the time where I need to call my therapist? Great question. No, I want to give you an analogy. Your line of defenses are like regular maintenance on your car. They're things that you do to support yourself so that you don't end up with a breakdown. Stress eating represents a reactionary intervention. So let's say you're driving down the road and your tire blows out and you change your tire. Now, I think most cars have regular size spare tires. When I was a kid, most of our cars had what we called donuts. They were these tiny little spare tires that were literally just meant to get you from wherever you broke down to the tire shop. They were not meant to be driven on long term. Stress eating is the donut of self-maintenance. It's literally like, I've waited too long, my stress levels have gone up to here and I've got no other option but to just eat. Those three lines of defense, those are things that when you do them regularly or semi-regularly, it's just like taking your car regularly to get the tires rotated, to make sure the tread is checked on it, to make sure the whole car is checked. So that long before you have a blowout, you have a maintenance guy telling you like, hey, the treads are getting kind of low on this. Let's go ahead and change these out. I'll sum it up in one word: self-care. And the reason I didn't introduce the video with that word is because I know in my own paradigm, my own upbringing, in the back of my mind, and even now, it's a struggle for me to use that phrase because there's a part of me that equates it with like, okay, self-care. Who has time for that? Come on. And honestly, what kind of a weak person are you? You know, that is a very old paradigm. That's a no pain, no gain paradigm. And if you've watched any of my videos, one thing that I am convinced of is that no pain, no gain paradigm goes absolutely counter to what I've learned with raising an infant baby, which is if they are not loved and they are not cared for, they will not thrive. And you, my friend, are no different as an adult. If you are not loved and cared for, even by yourself, you will not thrive. So, what I will leave you with on that note, a little homework assignment. Find something to write with, write 3 columns down, and then at the top, say line of defense, first line of defense, second line of defense, third line of defense. And then write down, brainstorm as many items as you can, things you can do by yourself that put you in a good state, things you can do in community that put you in a good state, and things that you can do with a professional that will put you in a good state.